China's attempts to change the atmospheric environment come as this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, meeting finds China and the U.S. in very different economic environments than when the two nations met in the past. And yet, I have heard that there's a bit of a, well, you know, U.S., when you all were going through your great economic expansion at the turn of the 20th century, you were big, horrifying polluters, and who are you to tell us we can't now climb that economic ladder just as you did, which will include pollution?
It's been the big challenge. I mean, both China and India have been opponents of a lot of the global environmental agreements for just that reason. And that's one of the challenges, right? They say, well, you've already done it. We want to do it too. And you know, I mean, I think that on the issue of trade and economic growth, as Tom said, the economic growth in China and Asia generally still is pretty strong. Yes, there's been a lot of wage growth, and I think that's slowing a lot of their economic advantage over the U.S. But still, there's going to be, for example, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is one of these big Asia trade agreements with the U.S. that the next Congress will probably take up. That's possibly an area for bipartisan cooperation that can help reverse some of the slide in terms of just organic economic growth.
But you talk about the peculiar relationship between these countries, the number one economy in the world and the number two looking to be the number one player. I would call them, like in economic academic terms, frenemies with benefits. Right?
For the first time in over a decade, business leaders around the world have declared that China is no longer the world's number one place to invest. America is.
So I'm wondering, like, in a moment like that, if that's part of, you know, on the question of trade, on the question of, well, now I have a Republican Congress, which may appear to be a political weakness, but in the context of this trade might actually open up space. Yeah,
I think when it comes to U.S. policy towards Asia and China, he actually has more leverage now on most important issues because particularly of trade policy. That's an area where there is going to be a lot more action in the next rounds. That may be actually the first priority in terms of bipartisan cooperation. I just came back from Asia a couple of weeks ago, and I can tell you that maturation, that energy, that growth in the Asian economy and that opportunity for the U.S. is still very large. But they're going to grow faster than we are, and that's going to be true for a number of years. And so whatever
there's a huge gap, but their rate of change is faster.
Yeah. So I mean, the Chinese GDP in total the total GDP is going to be probably higher than the United States, at least probably in the next couple of years.
No, but just not.
Yeah, not per person.
When I was young, I would watch.
But that's important strategically.
When I was young, I would watch.